There's another proof of blockchain technology. The government's advertising for me. Watch out, you might lose your good boy credits for wrong speak. I assure you I am rapidly losing them. And I'm just going to keep. You need to do more research about World Economic Forum. Obviously, you don't see how this is a plan. Have you actually been to Davos? I get invited. I go there every year. I see the people. I shake their hands. I'm kind of part of that class. It's not what you think it is. There's no cabal of the New World Order, just meeting at Davos. Guys, if a secret society is meeting to determine the entire fate of the world, they're not doing so with $100,000 tickets. Davos is an excuse for very powerful people to get together to enjoy skiing and drinking and just hanging out with each other, to entice wannabes to go and try to suckle at the teats of power. The Swiss specialize in this. And it used to be like the Bilderberg Group. It used to be like the Jackson Hole summits or other places. And it has converged to a point of a commercialized endeavor. You go there. It is pandemonium. Every hotel has high security. It's $10,000 a night for a hotel room in some cases. It's damn impossible to get around. You get searched everywhere. You go to your little thing, and there's just some guy, and he's looking at you, and he's like, okay, am I more powerful or is he more powerful? All right, let's see what alcohol he's drinking. Let's see his affiliation. I see his little tag on his badge. It's the double take is so common. They'll walk past you, look at your badge. As they pass you, they go on the cell phone, click, 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 click. Oh, that guy's important. Turns around, goes back, and says, hi, nice to meet you, so-and-so. I'm so-and-so. That's Davos in a nutshell. Imagine all of that in a small town that's not built for it, and it's impossible to eat. It's impossible to network. Believe me, man, if the rich, powerful people of the world are getting together in a single place to make a decision about your fate in life, they're not going to do it in a place where it is impossible to get a reservation for a fucking restaurant, and it takes 3 hours to get a slice of pizza. They're going to meet on a secret private island. They're going to meet in a beautiful castle in the mountains somewhere. There's a better New World Order event for crypto. It's in St. Moritz. And it takes place in a castle. It's beautiful. You take this amazing UNESCO World Heritage train ride to there, and everybody speaks Romansh, and it's just a beautiful area, better skiing. And there's no security. It's laid back. World star chefs there. And like every person floating around is a millionaire or billionaire. Really powerful people. It's a week before Davos. A lot of people go there. They don't go to Davos. And that's just the crypto stuff. There are so many of those types of events, secret invitation-only events, and they're under boring titles, and they hold them at the Aspen Institute or other places. And they make bigger decisions there. And yeah, sure, Great Reset is a big decision. They're telegraphing a lot. Here's what's going on. I'll cut the fat for you guys so you can kind of understand what the elite are trying to do. Okay? In the 20th century, it was the first century in human history where we invented an existential technology. Prior to that, we had muskets and warships and cannons and Gatling guns and all kinds of cool things that could kill lots of people, but they couldn't extinct the human race. There was no musket that could be fired and then suddenly we all die as a species. Then, in the 40s, we invent nuclear weapons. And then suddenly everything changed. We went from a local tragedy to a global tragedy. If that technology was misused, the entire human race disappears. That was the first moment where we started realizing as a species that global governance isn't about placating the ego of a world conqueror, Alexander the Great, or Caesars, or Genghis Khan, or something like this. This is more about preservation of the human species. So all these transnational bodies started forming to regulate both the use of the existential weapons, but also nation conduct, United Nations and so forth. Okay, so fast forward to the 21st century, and two things have happened. The quantity of existential technologies is increasing. AGI, The great goo problem, nanotechnology, gain-of-function research, and synthetic biology. Much easier times of acquiring weapons of mass destruction. Also, just natural overconsumption and anti-environmentalist capitalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the other thing is accessibility of these things is shrinking. We went from one nation state to a collection of nation states, powerful big states with a world order preventing smaller states from getting them, to 100 guys can get together, set up a lab, do gain of function, and create an aerosolized Ebola with a rabies special. Game over for humanity. Where's the regulation for that? How do you even regulate that? Because they can do it in a secret island, not tell anybody about it. It's pretty scary shit. That's what's coming. Couple that with high population density and the fact that the world is running out of non-renewable resources. Massive coral bleaching, a lot of desertification coming, ice caps are melting, all these other problems. These are known facts. Okay, we had a finite window of time to take advantage of stored up wealth that accumulated in terms of millions of years of natural resources, and we're exhausting that for the Industrial Revolution, for the industrialization of mankind. And that's not sustainable. It's a shot in the arm to get you ready to go, but you have to then transition to something that is. The problem is that transition requires new forms of governance and economic models. So when you talk about New World Order, it's really about that existential technology problem. And it's about the fact that the default world order is not sustainable. So the elite, because they're elite in their minds, not in reality, they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they think they have the moral right and the mandate to decide the direction of the world, transnational governments. And the only tool they have is a hammer. That's been the theme of tonight. And they keep batting down the nail. And that means one world government through unelected bureaucrats at the top. And you put titles and names and transnational bodies and all these other things and pick winners and losers. And because they have a lot of political influence, they can cause wars and do all kinds of things. This is what the elite do. And they were right if that was the only game in town. They're not. What our industry does with blockchain technology, how we operate, is that we offer a different way of doing things. Institutions that don't require people. Things that can't be evil by design. Things that respect your privacy and your rights as an individual, but actually do achieve a lot of regulatory ends. And different economic models that can reward a long-term outlook as opposed to a short-term outlook. So basically, libertarian capitalism 2.0, with a lot of the benefits of democratic socialism without the costs. Sounds pretty good. That's why our space is worth $2 trillion. And some of the elites are buying into the space because they realize that this is potentially a better approach. Because the problem with hyper-centralization of power, as the Soviets learned, is that when the guy at the top decides to abuse it, you can't stop it, and it gets worse every single generation. Okay? So that's what's going on. There's a great reset in that people are scared at the top, and they're very worried that left to our own devices, society is going to burn out, and the Fermi paradox will be proven true, and humanity will go extinct through some existential technology. Either an AGI kills us, the Terminator scenario, or some magical nanotechnology paperclip machine kills us, or a virus kills us that we designed ourselves, or some other unforeseen technology destroys the mankind, the human race. Big problem. Okay, so you just have to understand that all of these things are interconnected. And if your only mindset, you're 80 years old, 70 years old, is let's do what we did with the Marshall Plan, let's do what we did with transnational governments, these types of things, the UN, then yeah, you're going to say, well, we need to be more aggressive, which means we have to go from optional to compulsory. We have to go from advisory to in control. We have to go from elected to unelected. We have to go from free market to controlled market because it's too dangerous to let these people run around and do their own delights. Oh, it's not somehow surprising that people born into billionaire class, born into royalty, People from large political families that have been reelected for centuries somehow feel that this is the way to do things and that they have the moral authority to do that. But, we Americans, we're a little different. We don't exactly have a lot of respect for that. So I like to believe that the blockchain option is better. And that's the great fight of our times. But you have to acknowledge the wisdom gap. You can't have your foot. This is what Max Tegmark talks a lot about in Life 3.0. You can't have your foot at 100 miles an hour on an accelerator, and that's technological progress. But then on wisdom progress, the wisdom behind the technology, go 10 miles an hour. The gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Easy way of thinking about it, you invent the car, and then somewhere along the way you invent the safety belt. That wasn't because one day you woke up, you're in the shower, and you're just like, man, maybe I should make a safety belt. No, here's what happens. You're driving the car, having fun. You hit something, you go through the windshield, or maybe don't even have a windshield. You fall out of the car runs you over, and you die. And the person who finds your corpse says, man, maybe it's a good idea to make a safety belt so that doesn't happen again. Okay, so usually the technology fails in a way that we don't like in order for us to build something or regulate it in such a way that that failure doesn't happen again. That's fine when the tragedy's local. The guy who invented the wingsuit, I think the first wingsuit or the first parachute, I think he died in the first maiden voyage of testing it. Didn't invalidate the concept. Just same for the hot air balloon, I think. People die. Things happen. We move on. Technology gets better. We improve. The wisdom gap closes. You cannot do that with existential technology because the first failure is the last failure for all mankind. The technology kills you. So you do the wisdom first before you do the technology. Before you make an AGI, you think really carefully about the philosophy of the AGI and the problem of control. Stuart Russell writes about this. There's a lovely book about it, AI and the problem of control, and the ethics of these things. And sometimes you decide just because you can do something, maybe you shouldn't do that thing. Okay? And so this is where we're at. There's a wisdom gap. And because humanity has shown to exploit that gap in unproductive ways, and many tragedies are occurring, and the proliferation of existential technologies, it's causing the ruling class of the world to say, God, we need to solve these existential problems. And the only way we know how to do it is using the problem solving of the past. Domination, control, authoritarianism, force, propaganda, psyops, centralization of power, unelected dynasties, and so forth, and suck it up, buttercup. Meanwhile, they're completely ignoring the fact that a social revolution is happening, demanding for fairness and human rights and egalitarianism and institutionalization of ethical ways of treating people and blockchain technology and inclusive accountability, these basic things. Oh, those upstart ripper-steppers, who cares about them? Or, oh, they're a threat. They're going to prevent us from building our utopia that will save the human race. So we got to beat them.